evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Gets Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized. And when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to be always forceful with your point. Again, thank you all for joining us. Your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. You can also follow our live feed, video feed of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio and our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Tonight, the Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my colleagues around the table. Let me say good evening to your hard-working and talented staff here at Vaughan Radio. Webbo, let me say good evening to all those who are listening to this edition of the Let's Talk show, those who are present here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and those who are listening to us in the various islands here in this region, to those who are listening in Europe, in North America, in South America, wherever they are. Certainly want to thank you for allowing us the privilege to be in your homes or on your jobs or in your car as you travel. Let me say a very good evening to all those persons who are listening. Webbo, I want to, from the outset, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm certainly looking forward to this evening's discussion. Thank you so much, Webbo.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists, Naya and Mr. Brand. And of course, good evening to all those who are listening and viewing this wonderful program. Webbo, I want to say happy birthday to all those who might be celebrating, and for those who might be mourning, sympathy greetings to you. And I hope that the Lord and Savior would be a pillar and a rock of strength for you in your time of need. Webbo, as I often say, this show is one that is an interactive one. So I'm hoping that persons listening and viewing would call in, share their concerns, ask questions, give suggestions. And of course, we can learn something from you, the callers, and of course, you can learn something from us. Webbo, again, good evening and thank you for the invitation, and I hope that this evening, as per usual, would be a fruitful and productive one. Thank you.
Conrad Naya Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and once again, it's a very beautiful evening here in Nevis, and I would like to say a pleasant good evening to everyone who is listening to and viewing this episode of Let's Talk. Webbo, a special good evening to you and your hard-working staff, and to everyone who usually tune into this program. I welcome those who probably never tuned in, and I would encourage them to be a part of the program. As one of my colleagues has said, it's quite an interactive program. And of course, we, as I always say, have no monopoly on ideas or opinions or knowledge. So we love the interaction that we can actually share opinions and enlighten each other. So yes, get on the phone and call in. Webbo, I want to say thank you once again for having me another Tuesday night, and you know how much I like to be a part of this program, to be a part of the discussion that affects the people, and of course in our search for solutions. I do hope at the end of the night, Webbo, that we can of course arrive at some solution that can be in some way make the people of this island and the region just a little more comfortable and assured about their future. So Webbo, thank you once again for having me.
Webbo, if you would allow me, I want to join with Roger to wish all those who are celebrating a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, some milestone that they may have achieved. My congratulations, happy birthday, happy anniversary, whatever the occasion is, and I hope that they are celebrating. So I know that later in a few days it will be Valentine's Day, and I hope that that celebrations can go all into those time. Webbo, I want to also use this opportunity to offer some words of condolences to the family of Christian John Atherton the second. I have to put on that because he will always remind me that he was the second. To Hilly and to Memphis and to all of the children, the grandchildren, all of his colleagues there at our High Court there in Charlestown, our church family at St. Paul's, the Prospect and Bath Village and Stony Grove communities, even the Main Street community, the whole of Nevis really. And I believe, Webbo, that the loss of John, what I still think it's a relative young age, is certainly a significant loss for us here on the island of Nevis. All those who know John and know John very well, he often takes his job very seriously. No nonsense bailiff for I am trying to add up the years, but I'm almost getting over 20 plus years in that business. It must be a tremendous loss to his mom, to his wife, his children, and Webbo, we are deeply moved by the loss of John, and I certainly want to use this rostrum on behalf certainly of myself and my family, and I would even dare say on behalf of the people of St. Paul's and Nevis how saddened we are, and we certainly want to wish the family in this very difficult and trying time God's greatest love and God's mercy and his compassion and his comfort as they go through this very difficult period. At some point we all go through that. I know Naya would have gone through that recently. I myself, people, Webbo, you yourself as well recently, people deal with these situations differently, but just want to say to the family that we have them in our prayers. We certainly hope that they can find some comfort with the man that we knew, Christian John Atherton II. He will be greatly missed, and I believe that his shoes were so huge that I think it's going to be a challenge to fill those shoes. It's not impossible, but I think that it would be a challenge. But Webbo, Nevis, in my mind, would have lost one of our most serious, I would say, civil servant, one of our most committed individual who would have always given his pound plus an extra pound. And I think that as we reflect on him and as we remember him, we also would need to remember his family. So Webbo, I want to offer my deepest condolences to the family once again. Webbo, I believe it was just yesterday as well that we would have laid former officer Nelson Stapleton to rest. And again, I want to take this opportunity to offer my very deep condolences to his entire family. He too was one who would have given yeoman service here on the island of Nevis and throughout the Federation as a policeman. And he too would have seek to ensure that we were able to be a better community because of their service. And we certainly want to say to that family as well how saddened we are. Webbo, and those are two who just come to my mind, and to all those other families who are in mourning, we certainly want to offer them our very deepest condolences for the loss of, whether it's a loved one, a friend or colleague. And we hope that they can remember their loved one with fond memory. Webbo, one last thing I would say is, before we came on the air, I was saying to Naya of an incident that we had in the Gingerland area a couple of nights ago. And Webbo, I just want to say to our people that this is not who we are. When we are attempting to do these kind of acts against one another, it is something that I feel that is not a true reflection of us as a people. And I am hopeful that both mother and child will continue to do well and continue to recover. I pray, Webbo, that this scar, I feel that would have been carved here on the island of Nevis would be, in my mind, condemned from all quarters of this island. I don't feel that this is a place for this kind of activity when we are attempting this kind of thing against our women, pregnant at that. And Webbo, it's painful, it's heartbreaking, and like I said, I just hope that all right-thinking people would. It's sad, it's unfortunate, but I think that all of us, in one way, shape or form, need to know that this is not something that we would want to see in our beautiful island, in our beautiful federation, in our beautiful world, really. Where we can take these kind of attacks against our female folk. Webbo, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to double back, really, on my greeting and my introduction. And once again, I hope that we can have a very productive conversation tonight. As Naya said, this is a show that belongs to the people, and we are certainly encouraging our people to lend their voice to whatever the issues that they are facing and whatever some of the challenges that we face as an island, as a nation, as a community. Because our aim here and our mantra here is to try and see if we can get some result at the end of the day. Webbo, thank you for allowing me, and I'm certainly looking forward to tonight's discussion.
Before we ask you guys to show me what you got, I just want to say hello to Ted Hobson, and to mention, as I listen to you gentlemen expressing the condolences and some of the things that happen in the society, the persons that we're losing and stuff like that, and you realize that it is a part of who we are, we lose. And I long had this view to cherish and to concentrate heavily on the good in people, so that when the inevitable arrives, you can search your brain and your memories for those things, knowing, as I said, it is the inevitable. And as for me, the way I deal with some of these things, because if I go along from day to day and try to cherish and appreciate them, it softens the pain a little. And I'm experiencing something which some people might find interesting, even strange. That as I go about, and now and then I run into folks, Edric name keep coming up, and I'm so pleased about that, because it comes up in very positive ways. So I just wanted to mention that. You gentlemen have mentioned some of the other folks. The last person you were referring to in the incident that we had, was it Sunday or Monday? Whenever. Was it Sunday?
Yesterday.
Sunday evening? Right. And we keep having to pause to address these things. And you ask a rhetorical question, when will it end? Things will happen. There's a saying that accidents happen, but some are caused.
Yes.
Now, I find sometimes a lot of solace in words of great men. Anybody ever heard these words of this quotation? And as you listen to it, I know you wouldn't have a lot of time to think about it, but along the way, later on during the program, if you are thinking on it and you come up with an idea about it and so on, you can just mention it. But many, many years ago, I saw this quotation and I wrote it, learned it, memorized it. A general was going off, sending his men off to war. And the last words he left with them were these. He said, as you go to war and to accomplish the task, ask not alone for victory, but ask for courage. For if you shall endure, you benefit not just yourself, but us all. Ask not alone for victory, but ask for courage. For if you shall endure, you benefit not just yourself, but us all. And I keep wrestling with that for decades and decades and decades. And I just would like you all to think about it. And while you're doing that, you can also tell me whether this make any sense to you. Albert Einstein wrote. Albert Einstein, he was a super heavyweight, superstar, right? An inventor and all that. And he wrote, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Now, as I was saying this last part, I chuckled because there's a fellow who I'll always remember. In my daily or weekly instruction to him, and trying to reason And I suggested to him, hey, you got to think, but he told me he doesn't think. You think that's funny? The guy tells me he doesn't think. And I find that monstrous, because these days even they're training the computers and the phones and everything to think.
Yes.
You heard what Albert Einstein said? Education is not the learning of facts. Doesn't matter how much books you swallow, how much subjects you pass, and so on and so forth. That's fine. But let's train the mind to think. So that's what I wanted to say. I wanted to put something that we can, really think about, not just tonight, but going forward. Okay, anybody got anything they want to put on the table first? Nobody?
Webbo, just something brief. I'm not sure if my colleagues would have much to say about that, really. Just recently, we realized there been a big surge in the electricity bill. It's probably running now for about 4 months or 5 months, could be more, but quite shocking to people that their bill have doubled. I suppose it's because of the reintroduction of the surcharge and so forth. It's quite impacting, I must say, for households and for those who those who earn a little less than the average, I suppose, and impacting on small businesses. Today I had an experience with a friend of mine who operates a small business, and the person arrived at work and realized that the electricity has been disconnected, and the person rushed off to the office just before 10 o'clock and pay the bill and pay the reconnection fee, but never receive a reconnection till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Basically, as a result of that, the person was not able to operate her business and basically earns nothing for the day. Many people would say, oh, the person should have paid their bill. I could understand that too. But as you come across the disconnection squad and the urgency in disconnecting you, I keep looking for the reconnection squad and wondering if there is any urgency in reconnecting you, because I think in a small island like Nevis, and the process of disconnection and reconnection so simple, I think one would have expect that reconnection would have come much sooner, as opposed to letting the individual lose a whole day of business. And I think it is something we can talk about. I think sometimes when a child do something bad and the parents is probably beating the child, even though we know the child has done something bad, we sometimes think that the parents are just inflicting too much punishment, and you will casually say, please don't beat the little child so hard or that much, too much. And I apply that to the circumstance of people who operate small business who may have forfeited paying their bill on time or paying the bill in full. And sometimes I wonder if the slow reaction in reconnecting is a form of punishment to, of course, bring you to that understanding that you must pay the bill sufficiently. If that is the reason why the reconnection seems to be so slow, I would think I would ask them to be more lenient, not just to people who run a small business, but also to household. But it felt deeply when an individual just cannot function during the day, when he or she have has gone to the office and paid in full and paid the reconnection, just to realize for the entire day there won't be any supply of electricity. Gentlemen, do you think it's worthy of discussing?
Well, Naya, you've put it on the table, and I believe that everything that we put on the table warrants some conversation about it. Well,
but before I give up the mic, I just want to say that I am in no conflict with the company at all. I think they've been providing a good service, and they've been pretty reasonable with me in that regards, you know. And of course, but sometimes we got to look outside of our own existence and see the hardship that other people are enduring, and the suffering that may have brought onto them by slow reaction. In this case, taking that long to reconnect them.
Now, a few things. The first thing, the energy surcharge has not been reintroduced.
Oh, it has not been reintroduced?
No, it has not been.
Okay.
We took a decision some time ago to forego the energy surcharge. I honestly can't remember exactly when that was done, but it has not been reintroduced. That's one.
Yes.
What we have noticed and what we have seen is since the removal of the energy surcharge, consumption have increased exponentially. Where persons, rightly or otherwise, because they don't have the added on effect of the energy surcharge, they perhaps are leaving their air conditioner running when they are not in the room, they are leaving the lights on. So there have been some increase in the consumption. So that's one. Like I said, the energy surcharge has not been reintroduced.
So why is it the people, and I myself has realized this massive increase, quite a lot?
Well, you said that there
on the electricity.
You said that there have been a massive increase. Have you checked the consumption side of the bill? Have the consumption remained the same? I
have not checked that.
Well,
I have realized, and so many have talked to me about it. But whatever it is, whether it's consumption or whatever it is, it seems to be like in the last 4 months, 5 months or so, there is quite an increase in what you pay for electricity. And that's why I thought, and so many people have told me, they put back on the surcharge.
The surcharge has not been reintroduced. Okay. What we are aware of is that there have been some increase in the consumption.
Okay.
And that's one. And of course, the fuel costs have increased as well. But it's an interesting conversation now when we try and look at it in a from a global perspective right now. we will continue to see an increase in the cost of fuel because of what is happening in the United States, some of the things that the President of the United States are saying. We are now seeing tariffs and so on are now being placed on all kind of things. And we here in these parts would now have to realize that there will be some increase in prices that we don't have any control over. We are expecting and we are seeing some signs here and there that fuel will definitely be one of those. Right?
Mr. Brand, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Do you know of any period of time over the last few years at least where the fuel had gone down and we benefited from it?
When the fuel would, in recent years,
Yeah.
what we have done, Webbo, is we have the benefit that we have sought to pass on to the people was to remove the energy surcharge.
No, walk with me.
Yes.
The question I'm asking you is this. Over the past few years, if you know, has there been any period of time when on the world stage the fuel prices dropped and we benefited from it?
I honestly don't know directly, Webbo, that if
Okay.
there would have been a decrease in the actual rate on the electricity bill.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, you don't know. And I know that the people who know, instead of answering the question, all they'll do is vex with me and spite me,
Well, that should
which is unfair. But life is not fair. But I just interrupted your conversation just to ask that, because every time the prices are going up, we feel the pressure. So I just wonder if sometimes we can hear. I got some great news. The world prices just dropped, and your prices will be plummeting in Anguilla.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
But Webbo, as I said, the way in which that scenario has been dealt with is the removal of the energy surcharge. That would have sought to offset the cost that the customer would have been asked to pay.
You mean, you about a year or two ago?
Yes.
So about a year or two ago, when the surcharge was removed from the domestic users, the world fuel prices dropped?
I cannot directly recall if it was actually as a result of the reduction of the fuel,
Right,
but it was as a result of... Yes, go ahead.
yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yes,
I'm aware that there was the reduction,
yes,
which was very good.
yes.
The government, I understand at the time, or NEVLEC, or the government, absorbed the cost.
Yes,
Whether the price was up or down. Correct?
yes.
My question and concern was a little bit different as to whether or not it was directly hinged. And if it was so, and if that's the policy, whether or not it is reasonably to deduce and conclude that were the prices to drop as a result of, even as you're referring to the chaos, the customers can expect the same.
Well, I think it's the right thing to do, that if you have a reduction in the price on the global market. I think at one point it was at $50, and the next point it went up to, I believe, over 100. If you have those significant variant, I believe that those changes should be passed on and handed out down to the customers.
Yeah, but that's the theory. So I was just trying to find out if it actually happens. The other thing is, as we were mentioning about the chaos and the confusion that is going on, that perhaps might have the prices going up. Correct?
Yeah.
Right. Is it possibly can have those prices going down too? Because
It can.
One of the things I think that we are not discussing as we are discussing the alternate energies and stuff like that, I had a couple of notes here referring to that. Many years ago, it's on the record, somewhere we can find the clips, as we were discussing very excitedly the alternate energy. that we have. And I said in the debate, consider this. The people who own the oil, do you think they will sit by, watch an alternate energy come aboard, cheap like dirt, and leave their prices high? Try for you?
It's gonna go down. It's gonna be forced
Right.
to go down.
So let me ask you this, Fifield, since you is a brilliant fellow. If you have your car that you just bought, runs off gasoline, and they bring an electrical car, runs off electricity, and then all of a sudden the gasoline now is $2 a gallon. You now have to buy an electric car to get based on artificial intelligence. I don't have to finish because you know where I'm going, so you can just answer.
Well, that's the difficulty, Webbo, of making a choice, a wise choice.
So in that scenario, what will you do? You will make a choice to just throw away that car you have, or you and go for the electric car, you keep it?
I wouldn't just throw away the car that I have, Webbo.
Okay, so what is happening also that we have to consider, and the other thing that people must understand when you're having a debate or discussion, is to bring all the factors on the table. And some people, I say, can't even debate, because when a man makes a point, they say, okay, well, he's against this or against that. And that's why a lot of times we fail in certain things we do, because when a person points out a hazard, instead of dealing with the hazard, you cost the man. Right? Now, the so-called confusion that you say we are having in the world, across the United States and in the world, including the threat to the climate change thing and the new energy and all that and so on and so forth, right? Do you realize that some of these players, they're protecting the oil as well? Do you realize that?
Of course.
And then it all comes down to the almighty dollar, correct? So isn't it correct that that's one of the things that we will have to be facing?
Yep. And Webbo, even with the electrical cars, we still have to ask ourselves, how do we energize them, how we charge them? We have to charge them through an electrical port. Where the source of energy comes from. It comes from, let's use Davis, it comes from the grill of Nevlec. And what power Nevlec engines is the same gasoline.
No, but you need to think ahead. You need to you need to fast forward and engage artificial intelligence.
I understand.
Because work with me, because we are talking. By that time, you have geothermal, right? But what I'm asking you, challenging you with, the oil is going to challenge the geothermal with cost.
Of course, yes, I understand fully.
As Edric Stanley would say, are you following me?
Yes.
Okay.
Webbo, I don't know if I can chime in here on the discussion that Naya brought to the fore. He brought a particular case or a scenario that this customer would have paid sometime in the morning and then get reconnected till sometime in the afternoon. And whoever the person is, I sympathize with them. But I believe from listening to the radio, Nevlec has a policy that says something to the effect that once you pay, you will be reconnected within 24 hours. And we still have to understand that the guys that work at Nevlec, let's call them the reconnection crew, they might have been in a different area in Nevis, possibly reconnecting a number of persons, let's say in the Newcastle area, and that person might have been in the St. John's area, just for argument's sake. And since that, we are saying times are hard and the bills would have risen, drastically, then it's a possibility that other persons were disconnected.
Let me disconnect you a second and go to this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I just wanted some clarification. I don't know if anyone on the panel could help me out. One of the things that's missing from the whole geothermal debate is timeline. Right? As you just pointed out, people have interest in the fossil fuels to protect. There has to be some kind of transition somewhere. In our particular local case, what timelines are we looking at? Do we know?
The best way I think I can answer that from a layman point of view and listening is as soon as we can get it done. That's good enough?
Well, bearing in mind the history, that would not be good enough, because it almost seems as if, well, the obvious question after that is, well, exactly how much has been spent on geothermal so far, and how much more do we think we're going to be spending before we get to that point where we actually have delivery?
Yeah, caller, I get your points and your question, but the unfortunate thing, as I mentioned, is that if we choose to have a debate and have questions such as yours, people may well attack you and say that you're against it and you're unpatriotic.
Really?
Yeah, people sometimes...
And these questions that we should be asking? I mean,
sometimes it's the way we debate.
But we know, for instance, that CDB has earmarked $17 million already. Do we know if that money has been spent for initially...
well, here Mr. Brand has some information, and that he is indicating what, Mr. Brand?
Caller, in a quick synopsis, the $17 million is to do with the actual drilling. That money has not been spent as yet. They are presently going through an exercise of selecting the actual driller to actually do the drilling. I know that the first round of tendering was not successful, so they had to go back to market. I would also add to caller, I'm not sure if you are aware that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would have also committed some $20 million
correct, yes,
for to complement the CDB $17 million.
And that's for drilling as well?
Yes, the drilling estimate was somewhere around $35+ million. So
that's for productional wells?
Yes,
not productional.
Production well and the injection wells. So the steps is a lot of moving parts. It's a tedious process.
So after that, the actual plant that will produce the electricity, that's going to be a separate issue altogether.
Absolutely. So once
and do we know roughly how much that would cost?
There's a lot of numbers. I don't want to call a figure because after the drilling exercise is completed and they are able to tap into and get the exact resource that they are looking for, then they will have to design the actual plant to go with what they actually find. So, like I said, there is this initial phase where they have to do the drilling, the production well and the re-injection well, and after that, then they go into the actual construction of the plant. So
but nothing in what you said, though, prevent us from having some idea of the timelines. I mean,
yeah, the timeline, as I'm picking up, Mr. Caller, is that you don't know. You're waiting on certain things, and until they happen, you can set a timetable. Correct, Mr. Brand?
That's true. But
okay, let me just take this.
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening, Webbo. Good evening, Mr. Brand. Good evening, Mr. Faisio.
Good evening, caller.
Good evening to the listening public. Mr. Webbo, I would like to just add a little different scenario in here while you debate. I just tuned in and I heard the debating of the electric car versus the fuel, gasoline or diesel engine car. And I couldn't help but realizing that you are going one against the other, and it's not necessarily so. As I pay close attention to it, I realize from more than 10 years ago, there have been cars that are set up in a way that one complements the other. Meaning that you could have a car with a diesel engine or gasoline engine, and it also has an electric motor and some batteries. And whereas you were debating about charging of the battery, there is a scenario where you have the battery running at a certain time, and the petrol, the diesel or gasoline cuts in at a certain time. And while you're using the gasoline or the diesel, the batteries are being charged. So you don't necessarily have to plug in anywhere. We have those cars right here. They call it hybrid. We have a few of them on the road here. And I've experienced them in the U.S. as far back as 2013, 2010. I first came across it with a Lincoln Town car in Detroit, and I was using it for a taxi, and he says it could be running in state, in the local area on the battery, and if he needs to go out of town and have to go over 25 miles an hour, the diesel engine cuts in. And while the diesel engine is running, the batteries are being recharged. So it comes down to a process of economy. One complementing each other. The battery is assisting the gas mileage, if you follow what I mean. So it's not necessarily one against the other. When there's a debate, you need to consider all options. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think the caller did admit that he joined the conversation late, and the point is well taken, but it wasn't that exact point that was being made. So but the point is well taken. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say to the last caller, his point, of course, is well taken, and to the caller prior to the last caller, the intention is and the goal is that the jailer for the geothermal project would be and is expected to be selected this year. I would not say next month or next week, but the goal is and the aim is during the course of 2025.
Well, it is obvious that the idea of timeline should not even, given the history of we here in Nevis, or politicians here in Nevis talking about geothermal. It's been a while actually, and what I'm realizing now, that we keep going over almost like the same thing, like things I've been hearing in 2014, I'm almost hearing them today. I'm wondering if we're really getting closer, or because it is such an important thing, it is such a relevant thing, it is something to talk about in the meetings of alternative energy, why we are still hearing about it. And sometimes as a lay person, a consumer of electricity, I get a bit fed up with it, because it looks like it's taking a while. It doesn't seem like really and truly we are getting closer to it happening, and I'm not sure sometimes if it's even workable, because if it's such an important thing, I wonder why people with money, investors, are not jumping at it, as of course as a good investment for them, really. I've heard that, you know, we can produce such energy that in excess of what we use here, that we might be able to export it on all these things. I've been hearing this for a long time, since 2000 and early, and so I wonder why investors not jumping at this opportunity to make that mint of money that it sounds like, you know, can be made. And sometimes I wonder if the idea of selling geothermal is it because the market in Nevis is not big enough to really counter the cost of putting it into place, and we will find it necessary to, you know, have a much wider market, so as to really make sense of the cost that it seems to, what is needed to really put the geothermal. Somehow I personally have not lost hope, but I cannot depend on such talk that seems to be going around in circles for a long time. Thinkers have now come on board, and there are certain people posing together and so forth, and but for the consumer, I am not even sure that we will be paying less with geothermal than what we are paying today, because what Webbo has been highlighting, which is true, that they're going to be almost like a war between the fossil fuel people and the alternative energy people.
Also, this part of the strategy is those same oil people are also investors in the green energy. So what you're going to find is this, that were it be to be that the green energy take over, you have the same ownership, right? And what do you think they're going to do? They're going to put the price at whatever it is, because you don't think that the price of oil could be lower?
Of course.
At this juncture?
Of course.
So this is what is happening. Again, like I said, we're not discouraging anybody from exploring and doing certain things, but these are the challenges you have to face. When they started this thing, you remember Geothermal was here already, you know. You all don't remember that?
Yeah.
You had a couple of pickup going around. Geothermal, right? Geothermal was here already. They had some billboards with the cost it will cost you. Not correct? Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening again, Webbo. Brings me back to the question that I asked earlier. With the kind of monies that the CBI brought in, why have the federal government not pursue geothermal in a sensible way? If they want people to believe that geothermal is going to be so profitable. I mean, I'm still in limbo as to how feasible this thing is. Because if you're telling me that it's feasible and it's gonna be revolutionary, you have money you're farming for with the money instead of putting it towards geothermal. Waiting for some investor to come in and take what you should be getting to run the country, and you're settling for a commission. I'm not so sure I understand where that is going.
I call. Okay, call that. Yeah, go ahead. Oh.
No, I'm just saying that the general public should not even try to keep up with it at this point, really. Let those who are talking about it do what is to be done. And at some point we can get some clear understanding maybe about a timeline. But for now, I think we just got to get on with what we're doing and of course, deal with what's...
So in other words, you think we've been going long enough, it's time for a light moment?
Well, I suppose.
Oh, really?
What can we walk away thinking about the geothermal after all this discussion? I've been reading about it just yesterday in the newspaper again. What can we walk away with? Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing.
Webbo,
seems to be in the same place for so long, really.
It's not in the same place, Naya. The caller, the last caller, indicated that I think it posed a question or made a statement. Why hasn't the federal government spending money on it? Something to that effect. The truth is, Webbo, that when this geothermal initiative initially started, I believe that the idea was that navies were attempting to go it alone. I think that at some point they did have
resolution.
The US and all of that and other entities involved. The previous federal government did not show, in my mind and in our minds, the level of interest that we felt would have propelled the geothermal project forward. I believe that we may have lost, I think, 7 years because of that. I must say, though, Naya and gentlemen, that the present federal government, the Joe administration, have shown a very keen interest in the geothermal project, and they have given the level of support that I feel and we here on Nevis feel warrants the impetus to push this project forward. I feel that it's going to be a benefit for both St. Kitts and Nevis. The science is saying that there are more resources that both St. Kitts and Nevis can ever utilize. So, but Naya, we have been at this for quite a while, and I will say this, Naya and gentlemen, that in my mind that the two governments that we now have in Bastille and in Charlestown, I feel is the relationship and the level of cooperation, the keen interest and the level of understanding. I personally feel that this is the best possible combination to see this project come to fruition. It is, in my mind, of utmost interest and importance for both islands. We spoke about earlier about the rising price and the rising costs of fuel, and Webbo, I think, in my mind, hit the nail on the head, because the same quote-unquote persons who are selling the oil are showing some keen interest in investing in the geothermal. They want to make sure that at the end of the day they are still at the table, and I feel that I think can be a win-win situation for all parties. But Naya, you're correct. We have been at this for a while, and like I said, I feel that we have lost 7 years under the previous federal government. It's sad, it's unfortunate, because we were a part of that entire setup and that entire mechanism, and I don't think that it would have bring the level of benefit that we felt towards this particular project.
Okay, let me get this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, well, good night. I've been listening to this geothermal thing for a long time. Nobody answering this question. Nobody asking the question. How long would the geothermal... Okay, put it this way. I'm not talking about geothermal. How long would the heat come from the earth? How many years could the geothermal give us?
Well, based on what they're saying, it is forever.
You sure?
Yeah, walk with me. I'm telling you, based on what they're saying.
I never hear the question, the answer here.
But that's why I tell you.
So, put it this way. Another 50 years then?
Yeah, well, maybe more than that. 50 times, 50 times. You know, when we do the birthday greeting show, we bring out the multiplication table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, depends on how people talk, right? There's some fear or something behind this thing, you know. Somebody ain't believe the geothermal will last forever. They don't even think it will last for another 3 years or 4 years coming out of the earth. The heat. And we're not getting the answers. Only you ever me here say it will last forever. Anyway,
All right, thank you. Well, let me ask this. Anybody else heard me say it will last forever?
No.
Okay, just check it. I don't know. Every now and then, I remember once or twice, and my guys and I were reminiscing on certain things today at the talk show, and I have on a number of occasions challenged persons, but I never said that. You want me to stop and rewind the tape? And the fella tell me no, don't. Yeah, you know. But anyway, like I said, good evening, thank you for holding.
the number of
Good evening.
Well, to help the previous caller, if he wants to know how long that energy will last, he just has to think about all these volcanoes that we have around, and the energy that they exude almost suggests forever. I don't see why if we're taking a small spin-off down at the foot, that shouldn't last forever, because that is basically where the mountain eruption energy coming from. Okay, let's leave that and go to Mr. Brand. Did you say, Mr. Brand, that if the oil tycoon gets involved and wants to invest, that would be a good thing?
Caller, it could be.
Well, I beg to differ.
Well, caller, why wouldn't it be a good thing?
Well, Webbo, you a while ago, I came to understand you saying if they get involved, they're going to keep the prices exactly where they want it, where the oil prices are now.
Right.
Why have them get involved? What is it? What changes that?
Well, how could you not have them involved?
By the federal government spending money that they don't seem to be spending in the direction.
When you say the federal government, you're talking about St. Kitts and Nevis?
St. Kitts and Nevis.
We were talking worldwide, you know. We were talking about controlling.
We were talking worldwide.
Yeah. We're talking about worldwide. We're talking worldwide. We
got oil worldwide. We need to develop our resources. Everybody worldwide don't develop their resources. Oil. We have geothermal. Let us concentrate on doing it and reaping the benefit.
Let me ask you this, caller. You're aware that some countries have a particular industry, or not industry, but say that, man? Resource, a particular resource, and it's more feasible to buy it from another country. You're aware of that?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the kind of thinking that we're talking about. Because something simple, look at it locally. You know that there are a lot of stuff that we produce here as a local person. Mr. Brand is producing carrots, and Mr. Brand wants to sell me carrots, but I can bring in carrots and sell Mr. Brand cheaper than you're aware of that?
That is so, Webbo. But I'm more on the patriotic side and trying to get our resource.
Yeah, but me and Mr. Brand from Nevis.
Pardon?
Me and Mr. Brand from Nevis, you know. But when he telling me
that only tells me that some are not as patriotic as others.
Well,
the point I'm trying to make, Webbo, is that I would prefer to see us develop our resource as good as we can, and whatever it takes to invest it, and if it's as good as they say it is, the returns will come to us, and we'll be able to recover whatever we invest. Others have done it. We stop by and look, and we patronize them. It's time that we get going, and so that others could patronize us, the rest of the world could patronize us.
Okay, let me ask you if you're aware of this concept. This is nothing to do with oil or geothermal or anything like that. You're ever abreast of a situation whereby a person asks you to support them in a particular venture because they're in a vision? Get me on the board. Vote for me to go and that board as a new vision. Let's say a bank. You go ahead and you do that. When the time comes for your son now to get a student loan to help you to, advance and help the family and so on, that same new vision, forget that is a new vision, put them there and they go against them. You ever heard or learn of a scenario such as that? Being patriotic?
But Webbo, of course, but you left me wondering if you're trying with a Mr. Brand.
No, I'm not trying more than anybody. Hello, walk with me. The thing about it is this, right? When I speak, people always like to think they can use me to think, but I'm just speaking hypothetically.
No, but I mean, you can't stop me from seeing it the way I'm seeing it.
No, but I'm not stopping you. But walk with me. I'm not stopping you. What I'm pointing out, that if I make a scenario and you choose to want to put Mr. Brand in it, go ahead and do it.
No. Webbo, I was putting forward a scenario. You came with a scenario and asked me if I am aware of it. I said yes, but I also made an observation. We don't have to follow it over that.
No, we're not falling out,
Okay.
All I'm doing is making clear or what I said.
I only said Mr. Brown because Mr. Brown was sitting there, but I mean all politicians.
Well, work with me. Just like how I make my point and own it, everybody else must do the same.
Well,
are you following me?
That's what I was trying to do, but I'm wondering if with you bringing all these scenarios, I'm wondering if you're trying to veer me away from. But I'm still at the same point, Webbo. I would like to see our geothermal developed by us, so that we could reap the benefit and we could share with others. We could sell to others. I mean, the way I see it is, if there's money to be made, the resource is ours. Let us make the money and forget about this. Let somebody else come in and invest, and then we just getting royalties. No, I just don't subscribe to that. Thank you.
Okay, good. See, one of the things that we have to be realistic about, when I use, for instance, an example that is happening now, we have local farmers, do we not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Those local farmers produce local stuff.
Yes.
Correct? But what is the reality? Right? You see, a lot of people, when they're speaking in public, want to speak a particular way so that they sound a particular way. But the reality is, a lot of the times, they are able to bring the stuff in and sell them at a lower price than what the person is producing it locally for. Now, ideally, theoretically, what we should do is disregard that which is coming from overseas and buy the local ones. But does it normally happen? Right? Mr. Brand shakes his head. He says no.
We have
so walk with me. I can be what I say on the air are the same things I say off air. So I don't have to think twice. Right? That is what the reality is. Brand.
But we had a real live situation that you have alluded to just recently with the importation. I believe it was pork, where pork coming out of South America were being sold in Nevis cheaper. See where South America is than what the local farmers were selling pork for on the island of Nevis. And people were wondering, well, why is it that they are getting pork from South America and they can't get the pork that they know that the farmers on the island are producing at a much better quality are so those are real life situations. But I wanted to go back to the caller, and I wanted to say to the caller that when I did say that the involvement of these folks can be a win-win situation and we can benefit from it, I wanted to say to the caller that some of those same folks who are involved in the fossil fuel industry are some of the biggest contributors to some of these green climate funds. And the reality is that they are putting their money on both sides of the table, so to speak. That if they were to wake up tomorrow morning and there is not that demand for the level of fossil fuel, they can still be in the game and they can still be able to generate and have an income. So it is not unique. A lot of these wealthy companies that are involved in fossil fuel, they are also supporting and contributing what is going on in green technology. So that's just the reality that we are faced with.
Yeah, it's about investors, there initially was investors to get involved with the fossil fuel, and there remain investors to get involved with the green energy.
Do you know that is why sometimes people end up saying politicians lie and they fool them and stuff like that? You know why? Because sometimes they know the reality of certain things. But if you say it, that's not what people want to hear. So you say what they want to hear, knowing when you get there, it's not feasible. You remember Donald Trump said that on day one, bringing down the cost of living. Day one,
Yes, he did.
they asked him, Trump told them, yeah, but did they ain't finish yet? And since that, he been doing other stuff. Right? Now, if he did not run that campaign, his chances of winning would have been lessened. And he knew, because later on he said, but, I can't do that. It doesn't work like that. So that's why when you're in certain things, right? And that's why I'm keeping out of certain things. You can't tell people the truth.
Webbo,
Yeah.
if I can come in here, Webbo. Webbo, based on listening to the premiere, might have been last week, geothermal is coming closer to fruition, meaning he would have said that they are now into a different stage. The exploration and the experimental part of it in terms of drilling is over. Now they are in the phase of drilling the production wells. So my little understanding tells me that it has moved from, let's call it phase 1 to phase 2. Another reason why I think that we should pursue geothermal energy is the benefits it's going to bring to us, not just to the consumer, but to the country, to the atmosphere. It doesn't give off these greenhouse emissions. And we know climate change is real, and we understand that these fossil emissions, these greenhouse gases, contribute to the depletion of the ozone layer. Hence, if for no other reason, because if you have a product that might be cheaper and it's going to have or be harmful on the environment, should we pursue that particular product? In this particular case now, it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be more friendly and it's going to save us and the environment. So I believe that we should continue. It is slow, but there's an old adage, good things take a while, and good comes to those who wait. So I believe it is slow in coming, but it's going to come. It's like planting a mango tree. Well, maybe not so much in today's world, but persons plant certain trees not for themselves, but for their children and their grandchildren to come, for them to reap the benefit. So we have to start at some point in time, and if this is the starting point and we can see the benefits down the road, I would like to see it in my lifetime, yes, but if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, at least once it's going to be built on and continue and come to fruition sometime down the road, I believe that we must continue at it.
So the exploration stage is over?
Yes.
Well, what I would...
Do you understand what the exploration stage is?
That's my understanding.
What I would...
But that's it, a lot of people don't understand a lot of what they want us to understand, or what they're telling us. So what you are understanding now is that they are at that point of drilling the wells,
Production wells.
the production wells.
That's right. What I would add to what Roger would have said, and I think it's it's an important component to all of this, and of course that is the financing to do these.
The economics of it is worrying, and is of great concern to me. The economics about, yes, we want to have it because it would be our assets, our resource. We probably can do things with it, but the economics of it is what is mind-boggling sometimes, because I think that is where the greatest hurdle is. Finance, and if one think of finance, one think about markets as well, and the ableness for it to sustain itself. And what it comes down to is for the consumer, because the consumer, yes, we are concerned about the environment, but if the consumer can use fossil fuel and get it much cheaper than geothermal, they go for fossil fuel.
But as it is now,
they will be going for fossil fuel in that scenario. Because that's how people is. That's how people go about living their lives, really. And if we are saying that sometimes the same investors are investing in fossil fuel, and
But Naya, let me take this first. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah. The thing about waiting is that in the meantime we're pouring money down in this thing and not getting a return. Okay. And the previous caller made an important point. If this was so promising, you'd think that you would have investors tripping over themselves trying to get involved. And lastly, remember there are other alternative technologies. The technology behind solar power, for instance, is well known, and they're still working on better panels and better storage, battery storage. So while we wait, we may be overcome by other technologies. All right, and maybe one of the things I've noticed is that we're in a region where we have a lot of sunlight. Okay, for most of the year, and I think it's only because we don't have things like the capital or the know-how why we have not harnessed that energy more than we have done. Okay, it's very, very strange. I find that that something like electric cars, for instance, hasn't taken hold here in the sense that you can probably go around the island, both islands, with one charge, and the main roads are relatively flat. You would think that we're ideally suited for this, but I guess we're not, because we're not so involved in this technology. We haven't put investments in that area. It will never happen. Okay? But I just wanted to make a point that while we wait, we're pouring money into this. I don't want it to be a black hole that money just disappears into, and then the next thing we know, we're overtaken by other technologies, and geothermal is no longer fashionable.
Okay.
Okay.
Naya, the point you're making, are you aware that even in these islands, that some of these big companies also have shares or own some of the other big companies? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, so the people who own oil, the oil wells, owning the alternate energy and stuff like that is normal.
Yes.
It's normal. So there isn't anything, funny about that. That is how investors and so on operate. And then you put your money where you think it is feasible and stuff like that. And the idea is to control as much as the market as you can, and then control the pricing. and eventually the profits. See, that is why with certain things, they come with the reality, not with nice emotion and stuff like that. It comes with the harsh reality of things.
Let me just say, Webbo, Naya, I've said that how come some of these huge companies are not showing any interest or willing to invest in this?
Yeah, investors.
Well, let me say this, Naya. This St. Nevis geothermal project have captured the attention of the biggest names in the industry. The position that we have basically taken is that we decided to go a particular route through CDB, through those green climate financing agencies and so on, rather than just selecting one of these huge companies and say, here. I believe that we all would recall that that was one of the challenge that we faced in the initial stage, where one company versus another company were tipped to basically try and develop the resource. The thinking and the strategy is slightly different. They mean that they go through an entire bid process, and wherever the chips fall, whoever provide the best possible solution for ensuring that this resource goes to market, that is who they are going to go with. And they have decided that they are going to go via the CDB, those green climate fund and consultants route and those kind of things. But trust me, Naya, this particular project have gotten the attention of the biggest names in the industry.
That is good.
The biggest names in the industry. And
that is very good.
When you hear, I don't necessarily want to call anybody name, but a company like Siemens, you know that company?
No, I don't know that company.
No, okay.
But I mean, I understand that what you're saying. The public really wants to have clean energy at a good price.
And we are all in agreement with that, Naya.
The public doesn't care a lot about what you may know in terms of all these bigger companies and so forth. I'm not talking about you in
I understand.
The public is at the end.
The consumer
wants to be impacted. And so that's why I say maybe we should just go on what we are thinking and doing and wait until it gets to that point, because if we probably make plans that involve a lot of the talks that's been happening with the geothermal, then them plans they will never come to fruition, it looks like, in a sense, because it have not reached the consumers yet in terms of for them to make any decision as to what they would be involved in going forward. Even investors, because it's one thing about the geothermal, and we've been hearing this a lot, that when it comes on stream, we will have investors, not in the geothermal, but in light industries and so forth, because energy should be a lot cheaper and so forth. And so we await that. We definitely await that error, in Nevis. I hope that it materialize, because with the price war, with the same people involved, with the same thing and so forth, with a very small market in Nevis, with a huge investment that is required, all of these are variables that, will cause the thinking person to wonder if it would really come in, our lifetime or even beyond, as the caller just make mention that maybe, with all this procrastination or with all this hesitation and slow moving as it relates to geothermal, maybe a new technology will overcome this need. We got sun, solar energy, and so but the consumer, sometimes we are just waiting for better pricing, low cost of energy, and of course for those who are of some environmental concern, clean energy. But really it comes down to money from the consumer's point of view. You know, we will probably forego. I mean, Nevis is not like India with smart all over the place, and of course, I mean, we don't mind if we have to pay $50 for fossil. If we got to pay geothermal $200, we go for the fossil fuel, of course. You know, but it's been a journey, and from the consumer point of view, a kind of frustrated one too, because you know we are not realizing the progress. And I'm not saying no progress has been made, but you know, sometimes it's like one big talk shop going on when it comes to the geothermal. But I'm hoping that we can really come up with whatever it takes and you know, bring it to the people, and of course so that option can be considered. We will have fossil fuel, we'll have solar energy, we'll have geothermal. Well, you can beat that, you know, and which will never offer the lower prices for the public.
Yeah. Now, I believe that you are certainly correct in that, you know, the consumer, you know, we need to feel the effects of whatever is the common stream in our pockets. And sometimes it could be disheartening when something such as geothermal that would have been bantered around for a number of years, and we would have expected a number of years ago, and still hasn't come to fruition. But what I am seeing, what I'm hearing, is that, and my understanding, as I said earlier, is that it's some progress, albeit that it's slow progress. It is some progress, and maybe what our leaders probably need to do more of is to continue to keep us abreast and to put it in layman terms, you know, that we are getting there, and not just continue to tell us, you know, that what we want to hear, but probably what we need to hear, and in a realistic way, so that we could understand and we could better able to cope, you know, going forward. I believe that is a possible way forward, so we could understand. Because as a Sanaya, you know, the end of it all is how the consumer feel, how we feel in our pockets.
And next situation is, we find this happens a lot around here. When a government change, they never seems to continue where the government before left off.
But governments really should be continuous.
Governance is continuous, but we have that problem here. You know, like Mr. Branham said, in the previous federal administration, they show less interest than this one. Well, suppose things change, and I'm not saying going back to the previous one, but have elements of the previous one. You know, I mean, these are things we got to really take serious. You know, and I've seen that a lot, and the consumers really suffer. You know, when an administration change, and the new administration just shut down all the initiative.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. You're on the air. Could you turn your radio or whatever you're listening on down, please?
Yeah, because a suggestion.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Caller, what I want you to do for me is listen to us on your telephone. If you have a radio or computer on, turn that off. You'll hear us on the telephone, okay?
Okay. Okay, Webbo.
Yes, so go ahead.
Why not get the export to begin with with the project? And really let persons call him and ask them questions.
Okay. Might I ask for your help? How you think I could get them?
Well, ask somebody, the minister, I mean, Mr. Brown is there, he should know exactly what to get in contact with.
Okay, and just ask them.
Well, ask them to be like to come on the radio and the persons could ask them question about it.
Okay, I'll do that. But just by way of information, and I get it, the public think it is that easy. People don't do things like that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, because you don't think that they know the public will like to hear.
Definitely.
And you don't think that they reasonably know if they suggest to me they'd like to be on the program that I will say yes?
Oh, sure.
Okay, good. But we'll work on it and see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Yes, go ahead.
Well, another thing again, over the many years we've been talking about geothermal. Anybody has gone to be trained in any way when it comes to geothermal? That they can come on radio and really answer serious questions?
Yeah, we have had a number of NEBLEC workers who have done some training in
Alternative energy?
Iceland. Yeah, and we have a number of youngsters who would have studied the geothermal. Yeah, so we have a few persons around.
Oh, that's very good.
But Naya, earlier you indicated that the market in Nevis was small or something to that.
Well, I'm wondering if that is one of the serious consideration for investors and for those who is supplying the big money.
Yeah, but Naya, let me say this. Initially, that has always been one of the concern, and that is why I said earlier, the project is now branded as a Singis and Nevis project, where it is not necessarily a Nevis alone market. In the first instance, is a Singis and Nevis market.
Okay.
And then the idea is that the neighboring islands can, submarine cables and all of that and so on. But that has always been one of the concerns when you think about our peak production, about 9 megawatt, 10 megawatt. That is small numbers. So adding Singits to that, you take you up to 35 plus. So it expands the market. But the one of the greatest benefits of this geothermal resource is that we would not necessarily be so heavily impacted by the variance on the global market for oil prices, for the cost of fuel. Energy generation, once we are able to harness this geothermal and we are able to power our power plants both in Singis and Nevis, you have a stable, fixed, reliable energy source. And I am not, and I'll say this very guardedly, I am not seeing from a month-to-month basis now that you would have this up and down in your energy consumption costs or fluctuation. You would basically almost have a kind of flat line stable unless they decide to increase the rate or something like that. You will not be impacted by what is happening on the international market and the exterior. So that for me is one of the greatest benefit. So if someone is thinking about projecting their financials for an entire year, they can know with a level of certainty that when it comes to electricity or energy, this is a flatline cost. As it stands right now, from month to month, your energy costs can be significantly impacted. And I think more than anything else, that could be a game changer here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, I hope your administration is keeping their hands and feet involved in a serious way with this geothermal, because first, it's a Nevis resource. And yes, it's been now undertaken from a federal point of view, but just recently in the past I've been told that there is a board of governors in St. Kitts that seems to have only Kittitians and no divisions as it relates to the geothermal. Is that correct?
At Board of Governor?
Yeah, some 7 individuals.
No, that's
not correct.
That sounds like something like what's on the wall here, propaganda. And,
Okay. So, of course, by now they have established a group of people who look deeply into the whole concept and
you have
the establishment of the
there is
geothermal.
quite a number of persons who are heavily involved. We have some folks from Nevlec and both on Nevis and on Sinking side. So it's not a one-sided affair, Naya.
But that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, it's quite reassuring.
It cannot be a one-sided affair.
Well, it's quite reassuring because I don't want to start hearing that. It's being handed over to. It's a Nevis resource, and of course, it's not about priority either. That we have, because I understand the nature of it. But it's really of some concern, and it will be going forward an issue. Believe it or not, my word, it will be an issue going forward as to the control of geothermal. It will be an issue going forward. My word.
It would be.
It can be a political issue going forward.
Let me put it this way. If any government in Charlestown were to hand over the geothermal project to Basti, that would be political suicide. And I put it as plain and as blunt as that, right? And I don't see that the political organization and the political party that I am associated with have any intention to carte blanche hand over this geothermal resource and this geothermal project to anybody in Basti. Right?
Okay.
And I am talking plain as I am looking at you, right?
Good.
That will not happen with this CCM administration. That we are going to just hand over this geothermal. This is a partnership, and we are going to be treated with respect when it comes to this geothermal resource on the island of Nevis. It is not going to be quote unquote developed on Nevis and hand over to anybody. That is not what we are about, and that is not what we are thinking.
Beautiful. I'm looking forward to that because
right?
in so many aspects we've been treated with disrespect, even in the passport money. But you would understand that, and you would admit, and we all know that.
Well, I appreciate the concern,
and Prime Minister is the boss.
I appreciate the concern, and every right-thinking division should and must have that concern, because we have had in the past historical data to prove otherwise. But I am saying that the government that I am a part of has no intention of single-handedly taking this and give it to anybody on a silver platter. That is not going to happen.
But can I ask a question?
Sure.
You spoke to partnership, but my question is it a federal project, or it's a Nevis, quote-unquote, a Nevis project with the federal government partnering?
Well, Roger, it's a very good question, and I know that a lot of people would have that concern. It has to be a federal project because there are certain organizations and institutions that the island of Nevis just cannot approach by itself, by our very nature and by the way in which the constitution is established. And I go back to what I said earlier, that we've lost 7 years with this geothermal project because someone in Basti refused to send a simple letter. I mean, could you imagine?
Yeah.
7 years because someone in Basti refused to send a simple letter. And I must say that Prime Minister Jew, when the matter was raised by our Premier, the letter was sent and kickstart you. And it goes back to Naya and gentlemen, if we are genuine with each other, we can accomplish a lot of things together. But if you have individuals who are willing to be bad-minded and use the people of Nevis. I mean, what do you expect going to happen?
It's the brand.
Yeah.
Naya, I think, made a realistic assumption. Let me just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And how the dynamics of the elections in St. Kitts and Nevis go. Notwithstanding that hardly ever any party in the English-speaking Caribbean get elected for one term. But having said that, and we know every 5 years we go back to the polls to vote for a new government. Bearing what you would have said in mind in terms of the previous federal administration, and knowing now that this present federal administration is in full support of geothermal, would it not be prudent and be erring on the side of caution to at least have some end date in mind? Maybe not to release to the general public as yet, but at least have that in mind. So just in the event.
Well, Raja, you hit the nail on the head. Everything is on a clock and everything has a timeline. It's just that perhaps, and a caller earlier spoke to it, that perhaps we need to get individual and quote-unquote experts to come on. But there are some stipulated timelines. Right now, like I said, we are going through that final process of selecting the drillers, and the drillers have certain timelines to work with.
So there's a end date in mind. I got you. I got you.
Well, obviously, because I know that, you know, when an administration changes, sometimes we tend to don't follow up on initiatives that was, or progress that was made by the previous administration. I suppose all of this can be guarded against by legislation, and to make it a part of law as it relates to relationship and sharing and of the geothermal, not its proceeds, or even its proceeds, so that in the light of a change in government, that things would be already known and established, and a new government will have to follow in that particular path going forward, because with this federal thing, things can change rapidly, and sometimes we here in Nevis feel the squeeze. Maybe we can make St. Kitts feel the squeeze, going forward, if we find it necessary too. But the point I'm making, shouldn't we be following this pathway and this understanding by proper legislation, so that it becomes a pathway that must be followed going forward?
Now, I believe that we ought to. We just cast back our minds, a few years ago with the Charleston Accord, and we understand, based on what was in the Charleston Accord, that persons could change their mind midstream for whatever reason. And I believe, I'm not speaking for the Concerned Citizens Movement, because we have a member on panel here, but I believe that the Concerned Citizens Movement in government would or should learn from experience and should have now gained the necessary experience in dealing with matters such as those when it comes to the island of Nevis and the island of St. Kitts and the Nevis Island administration and the federal government going forward.
Gentlemen, let me put this on the table this way. Let me say it this way: all options are on the table, right? But our first priority as a Nevis Island administration is what is in the best interest of the island and the people of Nevis, right? And I can't make it any clearer than that. All options are on the table, but as a Nevis Island administration, and as far as we are concerned, we would always seek to ensure what is in the best interest of the island and the people of Nevis. Right? Roger, you spoke about the recent past and learning from experience. That is very, very recent. And if we fail to learn from that particular interaction and experience, perhaps we may be doomed to make the mistake again. But I'm saying to you that this is a train that is on the track and is running, but at the end of the day, we as a Nevis Island administration will seek to ensure what is in the best interest of the people of Nevis.
Well, that's good, but that's what an administration, a government is there for. And of course, any government administration in Nevis should be thinking that way, you know. But we obviously cannot erase, you know, the quite recent past and the debacle that occurred not too long ago. But it comes down to basically this, that we have a resource and we are working to have it developed.
Yes.
For the people of the Federation.
Yes.
It's been on the table for quite a bit, and of course the people are waiting to pay less for energy usage. We are truly fed up of the surges. When it's not the surcharge, then it's the fuel charge. And but even though the issue that I put on the table, I did not get that support from the panel, and I feel like that was unfortunate.
In terms of what, Naya? In terms of what?
Well, whether or not there should be a quicker response to reconnecting when the company disconnects. Yes, but I mean that is in theory, you know, and that's what they say. But I feel like there should be more rapid reconnection, because they can be.
Well,
they can be. I mean, you guys can say what is mentioned on the radio and all that, but there's some realism involved here. You know.
But I hear you, but I think that you can also appreciate that there could have been other extenuating factors as to why it took.
Well, that could be easily said. We sometimes, you know, does not feel the cry of the working class people and people who find themselves up against the wall, you know, and so I think that good people should have a quicker reaction to reconnect the people who was being disconnected especially when the money is paid so early in that particular day. And I mean, we can just sit and don't give support to the smaller business and enterprises, and just go along with the things that is broadcast on the radio. But I do think that that's just a way out, and sometimes a way out is really a way that really create a bad situation for smaller businesses.
Now, I believe that most of us understand that small businesses, drives the economy, and most of us also understand that in St. Kitts Nevis, most of us are living from paycheck to paycheck, and if that individual that you spoke of, lost a day's work.
It's not one particular individual. This happened a lot.
Right. Okay. I'm just speaking about today. We understand, and I emphasize and sympathize with that individual. But what I can say for sure is that sometime today, and from understanding into the afternoon, that Nevlec was in the Gingerland area, and specifically in the Zion area, doing some work. I do not know if that's the same reconnection crew. I cannot say, but I know Nevlec had guys doing work in the Gingerland area.
Doing work, but we see when you disconnect, it's not like cutting wire and all, and they just flip a switch. It's really going to take 24 hours to flip it back the other way.
I don't.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Quick reaction to disconnection. I want to say quick reaction to reconnection.
Okay, what about this disconnection?
Oh boy.
This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the video.
It's 9 o'clock?
So who's got the last word? That was a light moment. Who's got the last word?
Well, education, Webbo, is not just about the learning of facts, but it's about also the training of the mind to think.
So that's the last word. This program repeats tomorrow following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work, a place you can spend all of your evenings right here in the Eastern Caribbean's Powerhouse. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, talk that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited